Alright guys, today I am in west-southwest Houston, just near the intersection of Beltway 8 and I-10 for the Houstonians or people that are familiar. I'm not sure what the name of the actual area is. I get lost whether it's Sugarland or whether it's considered West Houston still, or doesn't matter, in the suburbs no less. And this job has been waiting on me for a couple months. These people were gracious enough to be patient. But we're going to get started here. The bees are going in through that corner right there by the, not sure how well you can see, but right behind the gutter and into the soffit, or in behind the fascia. So I'm going to pull down this piece of soffit here, and I do believe they're going to be right up there inside the joist. So we're going to get into it. We got the that piece of soffit took down, and it was just as we assumed. They're right in there, but I found this hive really intriguing because they pulled their comb at almost perpendicular angles, and I do not know why. But we just got that soffit down, and there's bees running everywhere, so I'm going to fire up my vac and get them cleaned up. Alright guys, it's been a booger of a job, but we've got it done. I got all the comb out of here. That was actually the easiest part. I'll go through and do some scraping and do some final cleaning to make sure everything's polished up. But this plywood that's in here is pretty bad rotted, and it's actually the glue, the factory glue, started to come apart. And so there was all these layers, you know, sandwich layers of this plywood, and as I would remove comb, the bees kept running between those layers. So I'd tear down a layer and there'd be a whole carpet of bees, and I'd suck them up and they'd all run up through the next layer, and finally got up to where there's that more solid plywood up there, and it kind of stopped going through. But it's like kind of like a double layered porch. So I don't know if they're getting between the layers or what, but you know, here's where they're coming in and out, and they were all bearding up really heavy there, and so we kept vacuuming up there and vacuuming inside, and finally I sprayed all inside with the Bee Quick and drove them all out and cleaned them all off the outside. And I think mostly what we got buzzing around there now is just some really confused foragers that are coming home, and they don't like the smell of that Bee Quick. But we've shut the vacuum down and brought our box over here, and man, this is every bit of 5 pounds of bees in the box, at least 5 pounds. It is plumb full. And as soon as I took the vacuum off, the bees started just pouring out of this hole, and they're all propping up on the outside of the box and fanning. So that gives me a little bit of hint that maybe the queen is inside the box. That's what we're really hoping for. God forbid she's up there inside that ceiling still somewhere and they all head that way, but they're not making any quick motions to want to do that. So we're pretty sure we got her in the box. We're going to let things settle out just a little bit more and start picking up some tools, and then we'll go ahead and shake the bees into the hive and look for the queen real quick. There you go guys. What we ended up doing here was the homeowner actually wanted to keep the honeybees that we extracted from the house, so we've moved them back around here on a little patio space around the corner of the house, and we went ahead and shook them in. I think the queen was probably vacuumed up the way they were hanging on that box, so we went ahead and shook them in here, and man, that is a lot of bees. There was a mountain of bees on top of those frames, and they've since then kind of dissipated and spread out a little bit. Had a bee just land on my finger. Luckily she didn't sting me, but it kind of made me nervous. So we're going to let them kind of crawl in there and settle down a little bit, and then we're going to pick through these frames and hopefully find her and cage her. If we can't, it's no big deal, but I'd like to be able to cage her just to make sure she doesn't try to fly back up into that old cavity where they were.
Well, I'm back home for the evening, and I know this has nothing to do with bees. You guys can just look at my blank gas fireplace there, but I did just want to do a little summary wrapping things up. We went through the hive twice after I made that last little bit about looking for the queen. We never did find her, but the bees were making no indication that they wanted to leave. So I do believe she was in there, but I mean, there were just so many bees in that box, you know, that it would have been nightmare to try to go through that whole hive over and over and over and try to pick through all the different clusters of bees and try to find the queen. I do believe she was in there, just because of the way they were acting. You know, they weren't flying off the box a whole lot. They seemed pretty content. There was a lot of them still fanning around the box, and also, you know, well, yeah, they just seemed content. But I had a brain fart. Really though, I think I probably did vacuum her up, because there was a lot of, you know, I explained how that plywood was pulling apart, and I was just kind of cramming the hose into different corners and stuff trying to suck up bees. So I imagine she was probably in the middle of a cluster of bees somewhere when I did that. I probably sucked her up, never saw her, but I think that's okay. I mean, that's common enough. The only thing that really scared me about this job, with not finding the queen and caging her like I really wanted to, is the fact that the homeowner kept the bees. So had I taken those bees home with me 30 miles from where the job was, I wouldn't have been concerned at all. I mean, concerned with them going back. Obviously, they're not going to fly back that far, but with this particular job, we just moved them around the corner of the house. So they could very well try to go back to that spot if the queen has, wedged herself up in a crack somewhere. But I think, I smoked them pretty hard while I was vacuuming, trying to drive them out of all those little corners and crevices and drive them up front. And then with the spraying of the bee quick, by the time I left, there were no bees hanging around up there on that corner anymore. Even the foragers that had come home, I coated all that down really good with bee quick. So even the foragers were not even returning to that spot. They were going down to the ground and landed on little bits of dropped honeycomb and stuff. So I think we're going to be okay. I told the homeowner, by all means, if there's any problem, please call me back. I'll make it right. Part of the deal that I did with this particular job was, since the homeowner wanted to keep the bees and get into beekeeping, he said he'd been looking to get into beekeeping for 20 years. So he was really excited about this. He said this is basically a sign from the heavens that it's time to get into beekeeping. I mean, the bees have come to me, So part of the deal was, I told him, basically, if I do a removal and I charge $250 to do a removal, I can take that hive home and I can sell that hive to someone else that wants to get into beekeeping for possibly another $250. So I cut him a deal, met him in the middle. These are great people, and this is the first job I've done like this where someone actually wanted to keep the bees. So I cut him a deal for an even $300, and that was well worth it, because he was there and helped me the whole time. He already had his bee suit ordered. They bought all the wooden wares themselves, so I just basically showed up, performed the service of cutting the bees out of their soffits and putting them into a box for them. But I told him if the bees all fly off and leave because that queen wasn't in there or something, I'll give him back the $100 worth of bees. But I still want my $200 for the labor. So I think everything's going to be okay. And he got a heck of a deal if those bees stay, because like I said, that was every bit of 5 pounds of bees. So that if you were to buy those from a packaged beekeeper, you're looking at, $250 or $300 for a total of 5 pounds of bees. Your standard package is 3 pounds for $150 or whatever. So anyway, I'll stop rambling, but I just want to let you guys know I did not find the queen, and that bothers me, just because the only other job I've done where I never found the queen was a beast of a job, and I kept having to go back and vacuum bees and clean up messes and stuff. So if you're going to do a removal, I highly advise, that is your #1 target. It does not matter what else you're doing. You have to always, always, always be looking for that queen, just because it's such a strong driver, for the success of the job. So anyway, I'm going to stay in touch with this homeowner here in the next couple of days. If they don't, move out, swarm off, or I'll try to move back to that corner here within 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to consider a success. So that's it for now. Hope you all enjoyed the little snippets of videos. I hope to in the future get a good camera stand so I can actually film the entire thing. And then of course I'll edit out all the boring stuff to summarize it. But that's it for now. See ya.